Hi everybody, and thanks for joining me today on Facebook Live for 3 ways to elevate your apparel with sleeve prints. We look a lot at the way that we print apparel, and we often do things like full fronts, full backs, maybe a left chest logo. But today we're going to talk about how to take the design all the way out to the arm, so to take it to another level or to add an additional placement. For every placement you can add to your garment, you add a different look and an additional profit opportunity for your customers. So today we're going to look at 3 different ways you can do this to meet some of the trends that we're seeing right now. And good morning to some of you coming from Canada, Chicago. We're excited to have you guys here from our Stahls TV studio right here in Pennsylvania. So I'm going to head over to the heat press and take a look at some of these different designs. So when we print sleeve prints, there's a few things to consider that we'll go throughout today's class. The first thing to consider is that you always want to make sure that you're getting an accurate print across the sleeve. So when we print sleeves of items, there'll be various things that are going to get into the way. It could be a seam, it could be a large cuff. We want to make sure that we're keeping those items away from our print and getting the best print possible. Another thing to consider is that when we lay out the sleeve on the platen, often what happens is we get 2 layers of fabric, so it can get difficult to get even pressure or difficult to be able to find the center seam. So we're going to talk about ways that we can get accurate pressure throughout this. The first way we're going to do this is I'm going to show you an interchangeable platen that works with both the Fusion heat press that I'm working with today and the Hotronix clam heat press, and it's interchangeable. So I'm just going to swap out my 16 by 20 heat press platen here, and I'm going to load in the double sleeve platen. So we're going to look at 2 different sleeve platens today. One is a single and the other one's a double platen. It just drops right in with a pin registration like all of our interchangeable platens. The nice thing about this one is you'll notice it has 2 areas for the sleeves to be able to be printed on. It also has this location in the center here, so the cool thing about that is I can actually utilize this for multiple print locations. Maybe if I want to print tagless labels on multiple shirts, multiple sleeves at one time, so a lot of opportunity there. It also has the quick slip pad protector, so it's going to make it easier for me to slide on my shirt and get both of my sleeves printed at the same time. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to load this on with the back of the shirt on the platen, and then I'm going to start to pull my sleeves down almost as if somebody was wearing this or putting it down over the top of their head. So I'm just going to pull this back, get everything off there. So now you're noticing I'm getting only 1 ply layer, which is nice with these interchangeable platens. All the seams, the cuffs, any thick seams up here are all being taken off of the platen. The next thing I want to do is I want to make sure both sleeves are loaded onto the platen in the center. That way I'm getting the sleeve print in the right location. The easiest way to do this, of course, is when your shirts come with a nice crease down the center. This is going to be optimal because you can see that crease. It's going to allow me to make sure it's in the center of my platen here. Once I have those loaded on there, I can then go ahead and do my preheat and then line up my transfers. So for this is going to be 2 sleeve prints down the long sleeves of this shirt. I am adjusting my pressure back a little bit for the change in the platen. I don't want to overdrive the pressure too much on these locations. Once I have that in place, I'm going to line up my sleeve print. So these sleeve prints are actually ranging about 2 inches by 11.5 inches. I find that 2-inch width and this length of 11.5 inches is perfect for a sleeve print because it allows me to have the design seen. It's large enough and gives me room to fit on this platen in one easy press. So I'm going to go ahead and center this up with that center of the platen. Also, I want to make sure, since I'm printing both sleeves, that they're in the same location. So I'm going to go ahead and measure up from the bottom seam here, and I want to go about 2 to 3 inches from my bottom seam for this shirt. This is an adult medium, so it may adjust if you're using a children's shirt or something that is more ladies cut. I'm going to go ahead and move this up just a little bit. So there we go, 3 inches. That puts me about the center position from the top of this shirt down to the bottom. Once I have that loaded down in place and in the center of the sleeve, pull this back to make sure it's on the platen there. I'll press this for the recommended application, 15 seconds, 300 degrees. I see lots of hellos, lots of hi's. Good morning. We got Delaware, Florida, California, Atlanta. I think North Georgia's on there. So lots of people, a couple other people from Chicago. This is CAD cut fashion film in metallic silver. So it gives me a nice little metallic finish with a really soft feel. I'll hot peel that after the complete application of 15 seconds. And then I can just pull my shirt off with a platen here and go ahead and print my front design. So it gives you a way to really add that additional location on the shirt. Grab that there. There we go. So we'll go ahead and take a look at kind of how this looks from the front. So you can see the placement is equal since I was able to measure those out. Of course, I'm holding it a little bit crooked here. And then we can easily add a nice full front location, a left chest logo, something on the back. But it's a great way to really take the design all the way down to the sleeves. I like being able to mix a metallic of a similar color of the shirt to really bring it out and make it pop on this piece. So that's a great option there. That's kind of the easiest way, or the most common way that people decorate long sleeve shirts. So we see a lot of the sleeves that go all the way down the shirt. So you want to make sure that you get your print within the center of the sleeve and make sure to measure that out. Once you have that kind of placement ideal, then you're going to be able to make sure you're getting it accurate on every single one of the shirts. Erin says they don't come with a crease. You could always hold them and press them as well, so that's always a good option. I always like to use that even if I'm trying to find the center of a shirt. So being able to crease the shirt even if it doesn't have that, because that's going to give you that best center line to really get started with printing in the center of the sleeve. You could also use the top of the sleeve, or top seam of the shoulder to get an idea of where the center is as well. So the next thing we're going to look at is a unique print on a short sleeve shirt. So for this application, what I want to do is I'm going to swap out this interchangeable platen to go to a different size one. So this one here is a double sleeve. It was nice so I could print both of those at the same time. You'll notice that the width of this one is a little bit more narrow than the next one that I'm going to be using. But this one works perfect on fusion and auto clam presses. Now the next platen I'm going to be using is just a single sleeve platen. So this one's only going to allow you to do one at a time, but it has a wider width, which I like for some different applications like the one I'm going to be doing. This one, because it's so narrow, you're going to notice it only works on the fusion heat press. So this one would not be able to go on the auto clam, but great for all you fusion owners. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my short sleeve shirt, load it onto my platen. Now the print for this location is going to be to do a wraparound print around the sleeve. So this is something that's really popular. And the reason I swapped to this larger platen size for this type of print, or a larger print location, maybe like a pillow if you don't have interchangeable platens as an option, which we'll look at here shortly, is because of this location being so wide. And so I want to be able to press it in 2 steps. So I'm just going to quickly preheat my print location, double check my pressure, because if you remember I had adjusted it for my last platen. So I want to make sure to adjust it back down. Alright, so perfect there. I've got a nice little preheat. Making sure not to completely iron out my crease. Once I have the entire print location, which is going to be that complete wrap around the sleeve, preheated, I can go ahead and load it on the center. So I mentioned a little bit earlier, you can always use that top seam of the shoulder of the shirt for a good placement to give you an idea of where that center is to get started. Once I have the center loaded on my heat press platen, I'm going to take my transfer, fold it, the non-sticky side to non-sticky side. This is that same CAD cut fashion film, so a good product for vinyl cutters. It's lightweight. And I've got metallic gold here for another metallic finish. And I'm just going to take the center and line it up with the crease on my shirt. Now when I size this graphic, this is about 1.5 inches wide, and I'm taking it all the way out behind the seam. So I'm not going completely behind. I just need it to look as if it goes all the way around the sleeve, since it's not going to be seen completely on the inside. So it's about 11.5 inches wide as well. If you don't have an incredibly sticky heat transfer, or you're worried about this sliding in the next step, another thing I can do is just hold this in place with what we call heat seal tape. So this is tape that's really good for any transfer that you're worried about moving if you're sliding it around or when you press it and you want it to hold in place. So I'm actually going to slide this around and get the first half of my print. If you've ever seen us print large prints on something like a tablecloth or an oversized shirt, this is kind of how I would do it. So I would slide it over, get the first half on the heat press platen, press that for the full recommended application. Again, CAD cut fashion films at 320 degrees for 15 seconds and a medium pressure. Hi Patrice, I see you there. And then Martha, how tall are the letters you put on the arms of the shirt? Those ones were 2 inches wide, and then the height of them were 11.5 as well. And then this one is 1.5 inches wide, or 1.5 inches tall, and the width of that is 11.5 inches also. So I'm going to go ahead and press this second half for another 15 seconds. So this is a good application to keep in mind when you're doing prints that are larger than any of your platen size. Kind of a press, slide it over, press. It works really, really great for heat transfer vinyl, especially products like CAD cut fashion film, because it can be peeled hot or cold. So it makes it easier for peeling this back with the application. So I can start to hot peel this now that it's complete. You'll see that heat seal tape just kind of comes off there as well. Once I have everything completely off there, I've got one nice wraparound shoulder print. I'm going to go ahead and do this just a second time to complete the sleeve application and talk through it a little bit. So I'm again loading it on, completely center. You also notice that the seam here on the bottom of this is incredibly thin, so I'm not too worried about this seam getting into the way of my print location. That's always a question I see whenever a lot of people do sleeve prints. Also, if you're doing multiple prints, just like I did with that long sleeve, you want to make sure that you're measuring your width from the base to the bottom of the transfer so both sides are even. Find my heat transfer here. So I've got that on their center. I'll go ahead and fold it crease to crease. Of course, you want to make sure to preheat the entire sleeve for your application. Press that. So I'm just going to slide it over. Should hold in place because fashion film has a pretty sticky backing. So I'll slide that around. Actually, I need to go up just a hair, so I'm going to bring it back. I'm probably just like a lot of you guys, a perfectionist. So I want to make sure it's spaced up there enough and not too far low down on the t-shirt sleeve. Making sure all the seams are off my platen. Again, I'm going to press this for that full application of 15 seconds, 320 degrees. Kelly said she loves the wraparound print. Kelly, I definitely do too. I really like this even for creating like an athletic look that's more custom with maybe a school name, so like the athletic striping. I've even done it a few times with products like CAD cut glitter flake just to add a little extra finish, a little flair to the side of a shirt, and I think it really changes the look of the design because you can easily see being able to do something like this in addition to maybe a pattern on the front of the shirt or a full back design. All right, so 2 hits of 15 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and peel back my carrier there. Hot or cold works well for fashion film, so that's perfect. Go ahead and pull this off and take a good look at it so you can see we have that wraparound print going around there. Again, I went ahead and went with 11.5 inches because I assume that when a wearer has it on, you're not going to really see the inside of the seam here where some of it is missing. You could probably, if you wanted to, take it a little bit closer and do 3 applications. I wanted to try to speed it up as quick as possible and do it as 2 steps, and that helps to speed up your production a little bit. And like I said, this is something that your customers aren't going to actually see once it's worn because it's far enough in. But you could go as long on a shirt like this, which is an adult medium, to 13 inches. So it just would take an additional heat press application to just include that in your timing when you're thinking about what it costs to print a shirt with these types of application. So good print idea there, good way to kind of take a design, especially a school spirit design, to another level. All right, so far I have showed you 2 different interchangeable platens and ways to print. The first one was going to be using that double leg and sleeve platen to create 2 full prints down the sleeves. The second one was that wraparound print using the larger single leg and sleeve platen. And for those of you that don't have the interchangeable platens, I'm going to show you one more option for printing sleeves with your 16 by 20 because I think that's important as well. So I'm just going to drop my 16 by 20 back in. Lock it in place. And then I'm taking just a crew neck shirt, and what I'm going to do is a really popular trend where we're seeing a lot of people put what I would call a DIY patch or heat transfer patch on these shirts. So if you didn't see this last week on Facebook Live, we recently launched some new patterns from Sparkleberry Ink, so we're going to take advantage of those because the patterns, glitter, those make a really great custom patch print. So what I've done here is I've taken a crew neck shirt. This is actually an oversized shirt from Pennant Sportswear, so their billboard jersey. And you'll notice that I've marked it here with that blue heat seal tape. What I want to do is, with something like this, I recommend finding your correct placement on the shirt. So maybe having someone put it on, see where the elbow patch would be, and then marking it with something. I use that heat seal tape because it's easy for me to leave that on and still heat press it. Once you have that planned, so I know this is a medium shirt from Pennant Sportswear, if I'm going to print an entire job with these, what I would recommend doing is then taking your ruler and saying, okay, from the cuff all the way up to this print, it's going to be 12 inches, or from the seam down, I'm looking at 4 inches. So you wouldn't have to have somebody put them on and mark them every time, but that gives you your placement to get started, and then you can measure them out. So if I've already marked and measured mine in place, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a heat printing pillow. So this is a leg and sleeve heat printing pillow, good for pants or shirts, just like the interchangeable platens. But instead of threading it on, I'm going to just load it in to the sleeve of the shirt. So this goes inside the layers. And the great thing about this specific pillow for this application is that you'll notice this application in the shirt has a pretty thick seam here. They call it it's actually a personalization location that if you wanted to add something there. But I wanted to make sure that seam didn't get into the way as well. So that's another good reason if you have additional piping or anything on the shirt to worry about. I'm going to get all the extra bulk off there, make sure my pillow is in the right print location. As you add things like heat printing pillows, print perfect pads, your pressure will need to be adjusted on your platen. So I'm going to dial this back a little bit. I want to make sure I'm giving enough pressure but not overloading the pressure too much. So I want to be at a medium pressure with this pillow. All right, grab my last transfer here. So I'm going to take this, again, this is just the Sparkleberry Ink pattern cut on a vinyl cutter. I went ahead and went traditional. I decided just to do an oval print for this location. You could really get creative and do other clip art items, maybe a heart, maybe a star, anything like that to really bring it out. You could even do a mascot, which would be a really cool thing, maybe a paw print for a spirit wear design. But this one I went traditional. I'm going to press the Sparkleberry Ink patterns again for 15 seconds. At 300 degrees. So Chanel, the question about how would I do this if I don't have the interchangeable platens, this would be the same way. So you could use your same heat press, you just need this heat printing pillow. And to do the wraparound, you just would want to make sure to press half on that pillow, wrap around the other side, and then press the rest of it with the pillow. So definitely can still be done. So I'm going to peel this back. Of course, before I send this out to the customer, I want to make sure I take off any markings that I've left on there, like my heat transfer tape. And then I'm going to take the pillow out and do the other side to get that other print location. As always, this is live, so keep in mind that I am not always perfect. So that print location, you always want to make sure you're doing an elbow print and not a top of a sleeve. So the other one is actually not going to be perfect. What I want to do is I'm going to load this on so that I'm making sure I'm printing the underside of the shirt. So I'd actually mark the top of it. I want to make sure I'm going down to the underside so it ends up being where that elbow print is a little bit more. So again, I'm going to go ahead, preheat my shirt. Make sure that shirt's up there so it's not falling off the platen. Preheat, and then go ahead and press my additional location here. I don't see any additional questions coming in other than some people love some Sparkleberry prints. I do as well. I think they're great. So we just recently launched those. There's over 300 new patterns added to our CAD-CUT pattern design. And like I mentioned, if you're starting to think about doing this patch technique where you're creating some prints like this, I think that really creates a unique design on the garment, and so that gives you a way to kind of have that patch feel on the shirt there. So I highly recommend having somebody put that on. That way you can make sure you're getting the proper placement so you know where those elbow patches belong on the actual shirt as well. Alright, so I don't see any questions coming in. So today, so far on Facebook Live, what we've done, we've shown you 3 ways that you can take your apparel and to the next level with sleeve prints. So full print designs, wraparound prints, patch prints. Of course, there's a lot of ways you can take your designs. We would love to see them. So every Saturday, keep in mind that we have a show and tell here on Facebook. Share your designs with us. We'd love to see any unique sleeve prints to help give more inspiration to customers and show us some new ways that you've taken these printables and moved them forward. But appreciate you guys joining us today on Facebook Live, and I will see you next time.